Have we been reading it wrong all along? The Abomination of Desolation, a cryptic prophecy that many Christians today associate with the Antichrist, a rebuilt temple, and the end of the world. But what if there is much more to this story? This phrase, first mentioned in the book of Daniel, is more than a riddle for the end times. Its true meaning lies buried in the pages of Jewish history, a history that reveals a recurring pattern of defiance against God's holy sanctuary. Let's go back in time to 167 BCE. Antiochus IV Epiphanes, a tyrant with dangerous ambition, stormed into the Jerusalem temple, the heart of Jewish worship, and did the unthinkable. He dedicated the temple to Zeus, placed a statue of the god with his own face carved on it, and desecrated the altar with the blood of pigs. For the Jewish people, this was not just an act of political domination, it was a spiritual abomination. Their outrage was so profound, they used the exact words from Daniel's prophecy, the abomination of desolation. But here's the twist. This wasn't a one-time event. Fast forward to Yeshua, Jesus, and his teachings. In Matthew 24, he warns his disciples, "When you see the abomination of desolation standing where it does not belong, flee to the mountains." Many assume this is an apocalyptic prediction, far removed from their time. But to Yeshua's audience, it wasn't vague or futuristic. It was a direct reference to a historical crisis they understood intimately. In 40 CE, Emperor Caligula, infamous for his delusions of divinity, ordered a statue of himself as Jupiter to be placed in the Jerusalem temple. The Jewish people were horrified. For them, this wasn't just an insult. It was déjà vu, a painful echo of Antiochus's blasphemy centuries before. Yeshua's warning wasn't about a singular future event, but a pattern of desecration and idolatry. From Antiochus to Caligula, history had repeated itself. The abomination of desolation wasn't an abstract prophecy. It was a real, ongoing threat to God's sovereignty. This pattern begs the question, could it happen again? Many believe that the third temple will one day be rebuilt in Jerusalem, fulfilling significant biblical prophecies. If this happens, the possibility of another abomination of desolation cannot be ignored. History shows us that whenever the temple is desecrated, it involves idolatry, a violation of God's holiness through the worship of something other than Him. This idolatry takes the form of exalting human authority, false gods, or corrupted worship. Should the third temple be constructed, we must recognize this repeating pattern and be vigilant. The abomination of desolation is not just an ancient or historical event. It is a warning for the future. If humanity once again defiles what is sacred, placing human ambition or idolatry at the center of worship, we will see the prophecy fulfilled yet again. The question is, will we be able to recognize it this time? This changes everything. The abomination of desolation is not simply a puzzle for decoding far-off events. It's a recurring challenge that tests the devotion of God's people and calls us to defend the sanctity of what He has made holy. When we view this through its original Jewish context, the Bible transforms from a mysterious puzzle to a rich, interconnected story of history and prophecy. It challenges us to see Scripture not as a distant prediction, but as a guide for recognizing and resisting the abominations of our own time. So, is the abomination of desolation just an end times enigma? Or is it a call to action for every generation? A reminder to guard against idolatry, both in our hearts and in our world? The truth goes beyond tradition.